What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm Brian Costa.
I'm Tyler Tucker.
And I'm Jake Marchand.
And we are coming to you guys live from a hotel room at Loon Mountain Resort. This is quite the episode for me to be doing. I'm doing this one just completely remote right now. I've done shows in some weird places. This is definitely up there in terms of the weirder places I've done. But I'm obviously glad to have some familiar faces back on the show. As you know, one of the original founders and creators of Down to the Wire, Mr. Tyler Tucker, joining me on the show tonight. And then as well, a good friend, Jake Marchand, back on. Boys, I think we kind of have to start off by saying, why we're up here. So, Tyler, why are we up here?
Well, we're doing some skiing, and it's very hard. I'm having a tough time. I got dragged out to some blue trails today, and it was pretty tough, but it's been a lot of fun, and we're having a lot of fun up here.
No, I'm having a ton of fun too. So for reference, I've been skiing since I was about 8 or so. Jake, you've been skiing how long?
I've been skiing since about 9.
Yeah, and then Tyler's been skiing about 5 minutes ago. So Tyler's kind of gotten a newer start on things, and honestly, it's been a ton of fun. Different, people, different kind of skill levels, and we're able to kind of mess around, do some things here and there. Tyler, obviously, it's kind of a different experience, but what has your kind of experience been like? Skiing over these past couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a learning curve. I jumped right into the fire. I wouldn't say the fire, but I went straight down the green easy trail. And for an easy trail, I was still struggling a bit, but Jake gave me some pointers, and I was working on a couple things, and we got to ramp up the speed a little bit. My ankles hurt a little less from driving into the mountain all the way down. But it's definitely it reminds me a lot of golf. It's something I need to put a lot of work in, a lot of time in, but I got the bug now. I'm going to keep doing it.
Dude, Tyler, you just seem like you would be a skiing type, and I'm glad that you're actually interested in doing it. Jake, this Tyler has skied before. I think you went on a ski trip with him at Mount Snow. Like, I don't know, how much has he kind of improved, man?
Yeah, no, Tyler's improved a lot. Yeah. It's kind of crazy to think that. I'm sorry. It's like they grow up so fast. But no, like when I went to Mount Snow with Tyler when we were seniors in high school, like 3-4 years ago. We kind of just like went to the top of the mountain and said, hey, this is how you ski. Do it. Find your way down, bud. Yeah. So, he was definitely like having a rough time there. And I honestly never thought I'd get him to ski again. But luckily, with a little convincing and the good old Brian charm, we were able to convince him to come up here to New Hampshire for the trip, and dude, he's been doing great.
I am so glad I got you to actually come up here, man.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and also this wouldn't be possible without Devin Scher kindly giving me his skis to use. We had been talking about it for about 2 to 3 weeks, how I needed to try those boots on. I need to go for a couple practice runs, and then I ended up picking up the boots and skis the day of driving here and putting them on for the first time at the resort. So shout out to you, homie. I appreciate it.
Dude, I mean, listen, I'm not going to lie. Listen, I will actually say, Tyler, I've been around now 3 new skiers, including yourself. I had to, obviously, my friend John, I had to teach him how to ski back in the day. That was a lot of fun. Basically, my advice for him was just like, if you're out of control, just fall. That was my advice. Like, I was just like, you're not going to be able to do anything else. So I was like, you know what, just bail. And John would bail in the absolute worst ways possible. I don't know. There's a way to fall where it's, kind of graceful and you can kind of brace yourself. John doesn't do that. He actually almost kind of aims for the ground in an attempt to hurt himself. And I don't know why. It's bad.
Didn't you say he retore his ACL skiing with you?
John, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that was a very sad day. It was on my birthday. That was a bad day when John went out like that. But man, I don't know. Jake, what is probably your favorite skiing memory up to this point?
It's a tough question. I would honestly say probably my very first time going to Mount Snow, because, that was my first time hitting a really, really big and like actually credible mountain outside of, middle of nowhere, Connecticut. So pretty high peak. And just the fact that like going down the mountain, it actually took like 15 minutes, no matter how fast I went,
Yeah.
It's kind of nice when you can just let autopilot kick in and you just cruise all the way down without having to think.
Nah, honestly, having autopilot kick in is a very nice thing. I was having that happen a little bit here because the conditions were honestly freaking perfect, man. So
Awesome.
yeah, I mean, I don't know about you. I mean, kind of growing up on the East, I'm just used to having just absolute shit conditions around here. So being able to go out and like not really have to deal with ice and just random stuff going on was amazing. I mean, I'm a longtime Wachusett mountain skier, so I like to go up there and listen. It's a nice mountain for what it is, but let's just be real. Like the small mountains that are far from up here, they just pale in comparison. There's usually like sticks poking through the snow. It's a nightmare, man. I guess the next thing I'd probably want to ask then is, I'll start with Tyler on this because he might have some recency on this. But Tyler, what is your most what is the worst wipeout that you've ever had?
Oh man, too many.
I know the answer to this
But
question.
there was one on Mount Snow. I was getting a little confident and ego inflated, and I thought, you know what, let's do it. My friends were like, let's go down to Blue, and I'm like, all right, let's do it. And I kind of just took off, and I didn't stop until I hit the ground. And I probably hit about, Jake, what would you say, 40 to 50 miles per hour going straight downhill?
At least 45. You
Yeah.
were flying.
Yeah,
Dude.
and I was like, well, there's nothing I can do here, and I just leaned over, took a dive, fell down, and I ended up practically sledding my way down the rest of the mountain. So yeah, that would have to be the worst one.
Well,
Yeah, I can imagine.
the funny thing about that one too is I was involved in this little incident.
yeah?
I was the one who personally convinced him, like, oh dude, you've done 2 full runs on greens, like you're good to go down a Blue. And so
What
he
is
said-
wrong with you?
Well, no,
You're a
what's-
monster, Jake.
well, I still got the karma still got me back though, because I said, I'm like, oh, you're good to go. He goes and he immediately falls, but I hit some moguls at the top and I immediately just wipe out like 40 miles an hour. And the karma did get me back because I
yeah?
actually flew down the hill and my skis stayed higher up on the hill because they could be like detached. So I had to like run up the hill to get them. It was like a whole like thing.
So is that probably your worst wipeout then as well? Or
That was my second worst wipeout. My
Okay.
first wipeout was Mohawk Mountain. I took lessons there during my time at elementary school. We had like a ski program thing.
Yeah.
And I was going on a black diamond because I was experienced enough at that point. This kid, there's a jump right at the top. This kid doesn't commit to the jump, so he's going off it, but takes it like right off the side of the jump. So he doesn't commit. So he's going into like a travel lane. He clips my helmet, literally gets it partially inside my helmet in the tiniest slit, and I just go flying. And I do like a 180 and just like lay on the ground. And everyone's like, "Oh my god, Jake, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Wow, thank God I had a helmet."
Oh my
Like, my
God.
mom was finally right.
we had to convince Tyler to get a helmet up earlier in the trip.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna be fine, but I figured I'd fork over $28 for 2 days of a rental helmet. But yeah, I was definitely some unearned confidence coming out right there for sure.
No, I mean, listen, I'm glad that you got the helmet because I remember my friend Adam, who I also ski with. He's also been on the show, obviously. I went skiing with him last winter during, the peak of COVID and all the stuff going on during the winter last year. And he we roll up to the mountain and his helmet isn't in his ski bag. And he's like, where the hell is my helmet? He calls his parents' house. Apparently his dad wanted to take his helmet to clean it. And I'm just like, what are you doing? So
Hate to see it.
yeah, no, you really do hate to actually see that. So Adam's like, you know what? I'm just going to go without a helmet tonight. And he had one of the worst wipeouts I'd ever seen, that even with a helmet, I was like, that's going to be tough to get up from. So when I saw him basically do a face plant into the side of Wachusett Mountain, I was like, oh my God, he might be dead. But I don't know. I guess the worst wipeout I had was I've been kind of chewing these guys ear off about it. They probably are sick of it by now, but I've been talking to them nonstop about Sugarloaf Mountain. And basically this might have been maybe 5-6 years ago or so. And there's like this little kind of part of a trail where it splits off into trees, and you can kind of like, my family was skiing on one side of it, I was skiing on the other, and it comes out into like this big kind of field almost it's kind of like a bowl. And I saw a lot of people skiing on the right side, but I saw a lot of powder and like people and like nothing on the left side. So I was like, all right, sweet. I'm going to go like just tear up the left side and just, go straight through this thing. It's going to be like amazing. So I peel off to the left, and I'm going along like pretty fast, and I'm just seeing like the powder go over my skis. It's like up to like like the upper part of my boot, and it just felt amazing. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then I start to get like feel like a little bit of like, you know, harder snow and some ice get in, and I'm like, oh, that's no problem. And then all of a sudden, just a huge chunk of ice just goes into the side of my leg. This doesn't hurt because I'm wearing the giant ski boots. So it hit very low, but because I was going at such a speed, it launched me out of my skis. I do a front flip in the air, and I just land flat on my back. And dude, I'm literally lying there just going, I just broke my back. my back is broken.
That's absolutely terrifying.
Like that was my thought going through the air. And then as soon as I landed, I was like, wait, I'm fine. And I basically just laughed in like hysteria. I was like, I made it. I'm alive. Let's go. So that's probably the worst one I've had, but honestly, it didn't hurt getting up from, which is definitely a plus. But I don't know. There's been a lot of new things that I've been able to do on this trip. I mean, even though I've been skiing for a bunch of years, I've never gone on a gondola. So that was something I was very interested in. I didn't know how that was going to kind of work because I've just never done it. So I don't know. Basically, whenever I go to a mountain, you know, once I strap my skis on, those skis most of the time are on for the entire night, and that's always kind of how it's been. So having to take them off and do that whole thing was definitely very interesting. I know, you know, it was very kind of cool to kind of do. Tyler, I know you're kind of afraid of heights, so I guess I could have you describe your first experience just racing up in the gondola.
It's bad.
I mean, well, first off, at the gondola, I had an absolute rookie moment where I didn't realize my skis were twin tips, and I was trying to shove them together in the same compartment. It wouldn't go, and I'm like, now I'm starting to panic because the gondola is going away from me, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't get my skis in. And finally, the dude's like, buddy, you gotta split them and put them in two separate ones. And I was like, oh, thank God I got that figured out. So, but yeah, getting in the gondola, you know, it wasn't terrible. The swinging, that was a little off-putting for me. That definitely did not help anything. But I have to say, the other lift we went on, where there was just, it was very comfortable, but there was just a bar in front of us, and we rested our skis on like a little piece of metal. I was grabbing that bar for dear life, and I just held on as tight as I could and tried not to freak out and pass out.
Like an actual ski lift.
Yeah, and then
like every ski lift.
Pretty much every other ski lift. Well, I think what made it worse too was the thing actually abruptly stopped and basically just tilted forward. I was like, this is not going to be a fun time for Tyler.
He's just so pampered, dude. Like, I don't know.
Man, I listen, I've had some bad ski lift memories as well myself. I mean, never fell off, never did anything like that. I've had some bad wipeouts getting off, but I've never really had it too bad. But my sister, who's also on this trip with us, had definitely one of the worst ski lift, I think, disasters I've ever seen happen to her. We were getting off the top of this lift up in Maine, and the wind on this day, man, was so intense. It was literally blowing against the chair, and you literally felt stuck to the chair, like, you just couldn't get off. You had to push like with every muscle in your body to get off. And my sister at the time, the wind is just blowing it at her, and she's like trying to push to get off the chair, and it's not, and it starts to go around. And all of a sudden, once the chair clears, the wind is now pushing her now towards the mountain. And she, I swear, flies like 10 feet in the air. And I just see her just leave the ground. I was like, oh my God. That was like one of the scariest things I've ever seen on a lift. And man, I feel very comfortable in the lifts I'm on, but sometimes I'm just like, God damn, that's tough.
See, and these have been the stories I've been hearing all week. And like, it's not making me be like, yeah, I want to do that more.
On the car ride up, I was literally telling Tyler like all the horror stories I've like seen or heard like while skiing. Like, oh, this woman fell off a lift. Oh, this kid flew 10 feet into the woods and hit a tree. They couldn't move his body for an hour. Like, he was not excited to hit the slopes on the first day, to say the least.
I mean, I don't blame you. There's a lot of just crap that can definitely happen on a mountain where it's just like, what the hell am I actually doing up here? Oh man, I have a ton of just other things that I could talk about, just about skiing in general. What's another thing I could think about? I mean, I've obviously talked about some of my crazier wipeouts. Oh yeah, I know exactly what I wanted to talk about. So we we tried our best to kind of help Tyler and some of the newer skiers out. Our friend Mackenzie as well. We tried to help her out with skiing, and like we were good in some times, but other times I think we kind of accidentally fed them to the wolves a little bit.
The wolves.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, it's a misunderstanding there.
So basically, our friend Mackenzie also is a new skier. This is we went on a 2-day trip. This is her second day skiing. So very interesting situation for her. We were going up to, she was mostly on greens for the day, and we ended up saying, "Oh, do you want to try a blue?" And it was like, "Oh yeah, sure." And the blue we pick out was probably the most difficult blue on the mountain. Not only was it an extremely narrow trail, it was filled with moguls and was also just powder.
So it was ungroomed whatsoever.
It was ungroomed powder with moguls. I was like, and I'm just looking at, I don't know if it was you or Allison who ended up deciding to, commit to the trail.
Allison.
She's going to say it was you. I swear to God, she's going to say it was you.
I don't know, dude. I'm sticking with my story here.
I don't know. You may have to discuss that with her, but she's been talking about it. And all of a sudden we get on this trail, and I'm just like, this is like a difficult trail for like us. Like this is
absolutely
like, this is a trail like that that's going to take time for us to go down. So I'm seeing her do this, and I'm just like, you're going to put a beginner skier on this. That's a nightmare, like logistically. And not only were we putting her on that, the other kid that's up here with us, Brendan, he ended up losing his phone, a white iPhone in the snow. I'm like, that trail was a nightmare. But
well, yeah, he was like literally 100 feet away from his phone when he realized he lost it. So he had to hook his boots from his skis and then just run uphill for like 2 minutes just to like find the area his phone was pinging from.
Yeah, no,
it was crazy.
It was a nightmare. Tyler, I'm so glad we didn't take you on that, because I mean, here's the thing. Mackenzie will basically just be able to pizza very slowly. I worry sometimes that you're just going to say F it and just send it down a trail.
Yeah, no, like that's kind of like if I see straight and open, I kind of just be like, all right, let's try it. And then like a big curve comes up and like, oh God, I didn't think that was going to be there. But yeah, if you threw me into a pretty steep incline with a bunch of bumps on it, I guarantee you I'd probably just try to start doing jumps off it and stuff. So yeah, you're definitely right in assuming that.
What can he say? He's an alpha. He needs to lead the pack naturally.
And I mean, but dude, by the end of the day, Tyler was leading the pack. Like he was
flying.
We were
hitting confirm.
Yeah, we were hitting some greens at the end, and dude, you were actually like doing really well. Like you seemed to have like kind of your wits about you. You were learning to turn more, which was awesome. I mean, dude, like by the end of the day, you looked pretty comfortable out there.
Yeah, no, I was feeling a lot more comfortable, and I think my first experience skiing at Mount Snow taught me, hey, stick with the easy stuff, stick with what you're comfortable with to start with, and then build to those blues and black diamonds. Which, I mean, again, I'm gonna draw another parallel to golf, but like you step up to a ball and you want to take a terrible, stupid shot that most likely won't work, rather than taking a safe shot, clubbing up and butting a ball down the hill. So a lot of parallels there, and another just important lesson to take away. And I'm definitely high on skiing right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm high on skiing right now as well, but I'm definitely going to need definitely a little bit of a breather. My back is killing me. But honestly, man, it was good to get out and ski with you boys. It's been a ton of fun this entire trip. It sucks that it's going to have to, all kind of come to an end tomorrow, but man, what a trip it's been, dude.
Great time. Thank you for having me as always.
100%, man. It's been a great time having you guys up. But obviously, I think this is a sports podcast, so I do want to talk about some other sports things before we do end up going. Not too many things. I wanted to do more of a skiing kind of video for you guys, but I don't know. One of the big sports stories that I was seeing was, hosted the Herd over on Fox Sports News, on whatever it is. Colin Cowherd. This man proceeds to come out and basically say that after the Patriots they got shredded by the Bills. Yeah, it was a terrible game for them, very deservedly so. Josh Allen went off, and basically Colin Cowherd comes out and basically says, the Pats don't have the talent to compete with Josh Allen. Mac Jones will never be at Josh Allen's level, and therefore they should trade Mac Jones. And I'm like, okay, listen, the kid is 22, and I was seeing everyone comment this down below that they were saying, bro, he's 22. He's like 23, 24 years old. It's his first year in the league, and I think his passer rating was like 80 or something, and no other rookie quarterback had one above 65. He was actually, having a very quality season for what he was working with. But man, listen, Colin Cowherd he's Connecticut property. What are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I am a frequent enjoyer of the herd. I love Colin Cowherd, but he does have a tendency to say ridiculous things fairly often. And this definitely struck me as one of the more ridiculous. I mean, everybody's so quick with the recency bias to just give up on someone because of one bad game. But let's not forget, this Patriots team was on a 7-game winning streak at one point. They finished the season 10-7 and almost won the division with their first year of Mac Jones. And I'll be honest, watching that playoff game, Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne were the only people playing out there too. They brought energy, they brought fight, and I'm gonna have to just very respectfully disagree with Mr. Cowherd on this one.
No, I mean, I disagree too. Mac Jones and Bourne were really the only two guys going out there. Like, listen, it's one thing about just going out there and getting shelled and outclassed by the other team. That Patriots team had no heart in that game. It didn't look like they had any will to do it, to really go out there and win.
And another person I was looking for the whole game was Matt Judon. I mean, with the incredible season he had, I mean, he just needed to have more of an effect. And I think a huge shout out needs to go to both of the Buffalo Bills safeties, Micah Hyde, and is it still Tre'Davious White? I don't know if he's playing or not, but
White is injured. He tore his ACL. He's out for the year.
Well, whoever the second guy was, they played an incredible game. I mean, Mac couldn't fit in anything deep in that one first shot down to the left. I mean, that was just a great play by them to grab that ball. A little underthrown, but that definitely was a momentum swinger right there.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. Judon just was a non-factor in this game. I mean, I saw that Josh Allen put the juke move on him at one point, really just made him look foolish out there. So I don't know. I completely disagree with Cowherd too. I want to see the Patriots go out there and get more weapons for Mac Jones. Now, I mean, listen, Bill Belichick went out in free agency and he spent a bag on trying to, help reload the offense for the Patriots and do all this stuff. But I don't know. I want to see them be able to go out there and, I think try to get a number one receiver. I was hearing Calvin Ridley might be interested in going to a number one AFC East team. I was like, okay, maybe we can, get some moves on that. Calvin Ridley would definitely be nice here. I mean, guys that we could get rid of. Jonnu Smith just seems like a bust. Let's think. N'Keal Harry, you could fire him into the sun tomorrow. I hate him as a receiver. I'm so mad at all the guys that we lost out on because of freaking N'Keal Harry. I'm done with it, man. I want the Pats to get a number one receiver. Hunter Henry is great. I think Kendrick Bourne's a good 2, and Jacoby Myers is a good 3. If you get a legit wide receiver 1 in with this team, I think that they can actually do big things.
For sure. And I also love Damian Harris. That guy runs. He runs hard and he runs every play. And that backup Ramondre Stevenson too. He's a dog. And I mean, people again quick to forget that game in the snowy Buffalo where the Patriots just ran it down their throats the entire game, and McDermott refused to admit that he was out coached. And granted the conditions were better, but I think in the long run the Patriots may still hold their edge on this rivalry. I really do.
No, I mean, listen, they could very well hold their edge in this rivalry, but I was hearing a bunch of Bills fans saying, in all my years as a Bills fan, what is my favorite Bills game? This one. This is my favorite Bills game by far. I was like, yeah, I mean, honestly, I understand it because you're just beating up on the bully that's been taking you to town for the past 20 years. So I do understand why this is probably your favorite game because it's just probably so rewarding for you. But man, I don't know. When I heard the thing that Cowherd said too, the other thing that kind of struck me, I was basically just like, all right, I think he was basically saying, all right, trade Mac Jones and try to get a veteran quarterback. But I'm just like, what veteran quarterbacks are the Pats really in the market for? So I looked into some guys and obviously Russell Wilson came up because there are some talks that he wants to leave Seattle. Aaron Rodgers was always kind of speculating what he was going to do in Green Bay. But Tyler, another name that I saw, you were probably not going to like this, was Kirk Cousins. He was a name for a possible quarterback to be on the move this offseason.
Kirk freaking Cousins.
Well, if you'd like to take him off our hands, I would love for you to do so. You know what? I'm gonna be honest though, I'm a little sick of the Kirk Cousins slander. The man could ball. The problem is his contract. He's eating up way too much money that we need to be paying to guards and cornerbacks. So that's my one problem with Kirk Cousins. So if you guys want to take him, you can.
Why the hell do you want to get rid of him?
It's the money, man. We need to invest young, and Jefferson, he's gonna be on this team for a long time. We need to get someone in now that could be really compatible with him down the line.
Do you really want to have Kellen Mond be your guy?
I don't think Kellen Mond's the guy. I think if he had any psyche or self-determination left, Mike Zimmer stomped on that with a boot. So I think we just need to go to the draft and work hard. This year's not the year. Hold on to Kirk Cousins for one more year. But if we get another 8-8 season and just meaningless stats, I would not be opposed to seeing him go.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Kirk Cousins would be an interesting guy to get, but I don't know. I'm still liking Mac Jones right now, and I'm also just like I also kind of think Josh Allen wasn't really all that in his rookie year anyways. Mac Jones had a very good rookie year. So I'm just like, if Josh Allen wasn't all that and he's become a stud, I mean, it's definitely going to be a different type of skill set for Mac Jones to really excel and become a guy. But, who knows? Maybe in terms of being a traditional gunslinging type quarterback, he could be the guy that, steps up and becomes that next guy. I think it's possible. I mean, I from what I saw with Mac Jones in a rookie season with a receiving core that I really don't consider to be that good. I mean, for a rookie, it's a good receiving core, but I think for,
B- a B- all around. Yeah, I think for the receiving core.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to see them kind of, get together, I mean, it's good for a rookie, but I think if you want to see a veteran that's actually going to want to compete and do stuff later down the line, you are going to want to get, possibly a number one receiver. If Calvin Ridley could come here, that'd be a freaking miracle. But I don't know. Jake, is there any guy that, you think the Pats could legitimately get that would be better than Mac at this point?
Certainly not Kirk freaking Cousins. Jesus Christ. Get that name out of my mouth. Anyways, I don't know, honestly. I'm pretty big on the Mac Jones train. I think like he's young and he's got a lot to prove, and obviously like previous expectations with Brady were so high, so that has put so much extra pressure on him, not to mention Bill Belichick's his coach, so that's just even more added pressure. But I don't know, he's got talent, and I think with a little time and development, if they build the team around him, they could see some future success. But it's going to take some patience.
Yeah.
But I think he'll definitely get there. And he's shown great numbers for his age, not to mention,
No, I mean, absolutely. He's got a lot of potential, a lot of stuff coming down the line. And I mean, just for Colin Cowherd to come out and say something like that, I mean, Tyler, you've always kind of, I don't know if it was you or Carter that always kind of had the best way to summarize Colin Cowherd and the way he describes things around here.
That was Carter. That was Carter. He had the best
Definitely
way to describe
Carter.
Cowherd. He compared everything to a Connecticut shopping mall or Donald Trump and was on with it.
Yep.
Yeah, it never made sense. Sometimes he would just go on random tangents, and I was like, "Why are you doing this?" He has the worst kind of analogies. He'll just be like, Russell Wilson, it's kind of like, have you ever tried to set up a sail on a sailboat? I'm like, what are you talking about, man? He'll make up just random crap and try to make it relatable. And I'm just like, dude, you live in a mansion in Los Angeles. Like you can't talk to me like that anymore. It's so funny. But I don't know. The next thing I wanted to talk about in sports news, though, was this is kind of more of Jake's alley in terms of NBA. The Boston Celtics ended up making a trade the other day. They ended up acquiring PJ Dozier back to Boston, and they also ended up getting the 7'2" man himself, Bol Bol. Jake, what were your thoughts on that move?
The taco gone. We needed another OG big man.
Yeah.
Bol Bol, I don't know. Obviously, he's injured right now, right? He's not in for the rest of the season, as far as I'm aware.
He's out
right?
for, I think, 2 to 3 months, which at this point could be the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, honestly, we'll see how it goes next year, but like next season, I personally don't see him going any further than just like a bench man, like with a little clout, like Taco. Like people will go crazy when he gets subbed in, but like I don't expect insane numbers. He's never really been that type of guy, and I really don't think it's going to change just because he's on the Celtics.
No, I kind of agree with you there. I mean, listen, I think he's more of a legit player than Taco. I think Taco's just kind of a meme at this point. I mean, I went to a Celtics game with Carter. I ended up getting a Taco fall shirt just because I was like, of course I'm going to do this. So I mean, I fell for the bait. I did all that stuff, but I don't know. I think that Bol Bol could be possibly more legit, but I think one of you guys even said it to me. He's basically just a 7'2" guard. Like,
no, that's my thoughts exactly. And I don't want to totally discount Bol Bol. I mean, he was impressive in college in his rookie year. I think it's an investment the Celtics should make because he's going to be an unrestricted free agent after the season. Maybe use those bird rights and get on top of him. But I think he should be given a test run at least. He should be given a chance to prove himself, just like how Dennis Schroeder's been doing this year. Which I mean, he started off super hot, cooled down a little bit now. He's a little bit back to reality, but he looked really good in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, no, I mean, he actually did look really good in the beginning of the season too, and the fact that we were able to get him for such a cheap price, the man was demanding that I think he turned down an $80 million contract. We got him for like 5. So I mean,
75 million under asking price. What a steal!
that is one way to do some marketing. I mean, his agent definitely does not have a job right now. If he's I mean, do you have an agent at that point? Like I don't even know. Like that's just a dumb decision, man. So I mean, I'll gladly take Dennis Schroeder on this team. Maybe Bol Bol actually can be something, but I don't know. It's really all gonna depend. But man, the Celtics this year have just kind of been disappointing in general. I mean, they've had some good wins here and there, but man, I don't know. I'm starting to get to the point where I feel like the fact that we have 2 young superstars from such an early age, at this point, it's almost becoming a detriment to us because say Tatum and Brown got to the Celtics when they were like 28, 29 or so. And it was like, all right, we have a 3-year window with these guys. And it could be like, all right, we understand what we need to do. Like you could just like have it go from the get-go. And if it doesn't work, then you essentially can blow it up or do something like that. With Tatum and Brown, because they're young, you do have to understand that they are going to have to grow and develop and do all that stuff, yada, yada. But the problem with it is, I think because you see the immense talent that they have, when they don't reach the expectations you assume that they should, it makes you really kind of feel like, is this actually going to work out or not?
Yeah. And one thing about the Celtics, I mean, it seems like they've never been good about fielding a team around Tatum and Brown. I mean, you need to give those guys a center down low that can rebound, box out, and block and protect the paint. Give them a run and gun guard, and give them a Marcus Smart to pick up the other team's best man. That's what you need to give them. And so far, we've settled for. We gave up Kemba Walker for Al Horford, which, I know the Kemba Walker experience didn't go so well. I still love the man. He's one of my sports idols. I think he should have got another shot in Boston. I really didn't see the point of bringing Al Horford back into the fold, but we needed that Andre Drummond 2 to 3 years ago down low. Dennis Schroeder and Marcus Smart would have been the perfect 1 and 2 for this year with an Andre Drummond type player. He's not there anymore, but someone of that caliber and quality level, that's what they need on the floor.
No, I mean, we definitely need that too. I mean, I think I said it to Jake a number of times. Like Jake, you used to be a Rockets fan, and the Rockets were known for a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3, of playing small ball. Like we don't have a traditional center. I don't think the Celtics have had a traditional center since Kendrick Perkins. Like legitimately. I mean,
I'd agree with that.
I mean,
totally.
we've had good power forwards. We've had guys like that, but Al Horford isn't traditionally a center. He is a power forward when you look at him on paper. And I'm just like,
undersized power forward.
Absolutely.
no, I mean, he is an undersized power forward. I do just wonder, I mean, Bol again, you get a 7-footer, but he plays like a guard. I'm just like, I feel like if we want to be able to compete with like the Embiids and like the 76ers of the world and teams that actually have a presence down low, and I know it sounds old fashioned, but you do kind of need to find a guy like that. I'm not saying that guy down low has to be a stud, but at least just have a big enough body that can stop him. I mean, I don't think that Enes Kanter is that guy. Yeah.
No way.
No, he's not. I mean, listen, Al Horford used to kind of be able to shut down Embiid and was actually kind of able to stop him back in the day, but he's like, what, 35 years old now or so?
That's 3 years ago now.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was like, so it was 3 years ago. You're not going to see that type of production anymore. So I don't know. We have to find someone to replace it. But you mentioned Marcus Smart, which is interesting. I was seeing reports that apparently the Jazz and the Celtics are talking about a trade involving Marcus Smart, and that would send a couple first-round picks to Boston. And a lot of people are saying that Brad Stevens is going to try to basically fleece Danny Ainge in his first season now as GM. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what would your asking price for Marcus Smart be?
That's a tough one. I mean, if we're getting 2 first-round picks from the Jazz in this year, I'd have to kind of consider it. The problem with Marcus Smart is he has a lot of non-box score stats. He's got a lot of heart and hustle. He plays hard defense like Patrick Beverly, a guy like that. He reminds me a lot of like a Jackie Bradley Jr., Sometimes, that not sometimes, most of the time, the offense, the defense didn't show. The defense was there most of the time. The offense wasn't always there. And I think that's Marcus Smart's predicament. Exactly. So if they were offering 2 first-round picks, I'd have to mull it over. It depends who we think is going to be available. Another good guard that could possibly fill his role. But I'd have to sit on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to sit on it too. And here's the thing, Jake. Maybe you'll agree with me on this. With Tatum and Brown, they kind of just give off the perception that they still are very young. I think they still care about their all-star appearances. They're still trying to get those first team, selections and trying to get those incentives and do that, all that. And I get that for a young player, that's something that, I can respect that you're trying to go for that. And I understand, padding your personal stats, but in Boston, we want championships. And what I like with Marcus Smart is sometimes he can get kind of in his own head too, but I like that he at least can, kind of sometimes see through the BS, and he'll call Jason and Jalen out when maybe they speak out of line. Mostly Jason at this point. Jalen, I think, has a better handle on things, but Jason's still very young. So I think, whenever he maybe speak out of turn or, think that he knows something that he doesn't, I like that Marcus Smart can step in there and be like, nah, man, like that's not how you actually do things around here. And it can be annoying, but I think if you were to see a guy like Marcus Smart go and Jason Tatum just has like free reign, I don't know if you'd ever see regression, but I don't know if you're going to see him ever evolve into being into being a player that's going to want to play and actually, really, be a part of a championship roster.
Yeah, and another point to that, the Celtics haven't had a true, real, like, veteran presence in a long time. I mean, the last I can think of is before Pierce, Garnett, and I mean, before those guys, we haven't had like a true veteran presence that can really rally the troops. And I think that's what Tatum and Brown need. They need a guy who is out of his prime but can still contribute, to just put him in their place. Be like, if you're cold tonight, dish the rock. You don't need to get 30 points every night. You don't need to take 15 to 20 shots every single night. If you're not feeling it that night, pass it around, get open, make your cuts. You'll start feeling it. You'll start getting a rhythm. And I really think that's what both Tatum and Brown need.
I got 2 words for you. Isaiah Thomas. It's the only way, if you ask me. Like, I know you have your mixed feelings about it. I know you love Isaiah Thomas and hate him for the team at the same time. But, like, come on, dude. He looks good in the white and green. He looks so good.
I mean, I don't disagree, but Isaiah Thomas is getting passed around like a bag of chips at this point. It's sad, but I mean, it's just the reality of it now. He just is. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I really want to see him.
Maybe a couple of years ago.
Yeah, maybe a couple of years ago, maybe before the hip went. I think that's kind of why we traded him in the first place. So I don't know. I'm kind of iffy on the whole thing. But I don't know. I'm gonna have to really just see what ends up happening next. I mean, that is my concern though with seeing a guy like Marcus Smart leave. I think that it could just kind of lead to a lot of problems festering within the Celtics. But I don't know. I think that concludes what we have in NBA news. But before we do end up going, this was kind of a funny story that I ended up seeing on ESPN. I was trying to think of topics to talk about on the show. Obviously, we had the wild card games and those were awesome. But in terms of like legit news stories, I was actually kind of struggling to find some stuff to talk about. But this was something that I found to be really absurd. So I think I saw this on I think I saw Greenberg talking about this on ESPN earlier this week, and he was talking about Florida State's basketball team. They were having a home game or something very recently, and someone ended up snapping a picture of a new banner that they put up in their stadium. And because of the 2020 season getting canceled due to COVID, a lot of teams basically felt they got kind of screwed out of getting a title. They felt that they were essentially robbed. And Florida State, I guess, definitely felt like that because they ended up putting up a banner that said that just reads NCAA canceled 2020. And this is the part that baffles me. It says number 4 in the number 4 overall final ranking. And I'm like, that is the most petty thing I think I've ever seen. I mean, I don't know about you, but that just reeks of the Colts banner. I think when they made the AFC championship finalist because they saw it as like a dig at the Patriots for Deflategate. I mean, man, that it is one of the most ridiculous banners I've ever seen. I mean, Jake, have you ever seen like the meme about like the Knicks banner where it would be like, oh, Porzingis wins skills competition. It's like a banner you could hang in the arena.
It's ridiculous. It's just a jab at other teams because
Yeah.
you're just trying to make up for your failures. Honestly, it's the easiest way to put it.
No, exactly. So, I mean, listen, here's the thing about Florida State. Obviously, you're number 4 going into March Madness. That's not an easy task by any means. I mean, that's a tough thing to do. But I mean, listen, I could understand if you were ranked number 1 overall in the AP poll ranking, and it could be like, hey, we were ranked number 1. We're gonna do this. And I also understand, all right, if you make a Final Four, you could say you did it. But I mean, just no one celebrates finishing number 4 overall in the AP poll. If you want to celebrate the number 1 and say and just say, hey, the season kind of cut us short, I could at least understand that. The other thing too that actually I think Greeny on ESPN pointed out was he ended up saying, why do you have to say canceled underneath it? He ended up saying, why are you reminding us of like one of the worst times in sports history? Like, why are you doing this to us?
Yeah, and I was going to mention that. Just why would you want to remind yourself? And let's be honest. I mean, the AP top 25, it's not the most accurate. So Florida State could have went into the tournament as a 1 seed, and maybe they could have ran through their bracket and gone all the way. But you know what? They could have gotten knocked out by a no-name college that was Division II 5 years ago just because they had the more heart that game. So I think it's unfair to every other team in the NCAA that was also fighting for a shot. It's the no-name teams. I wouldn't say no-name teams, but the teams in the lower 20s to 25s and in the 50s, they're not posting we finished 50th. No one's posting we finished 4th, and I really don't think you need to be reminded of that season that was canceled for quite terrible reason.
No, I mean, you don't want to actually have to think about it. And I mean, the fact that they're just like kind of just being like, hey, remember that? It's like, yeah, we don't want to remember that, but you're making us. I mean, another thing I ended up seeing in terms of the AP poll and things like that was, I don't know if you saw this, but obviously the Georgia Bulldogs just won the national championship in the NCAA football. But their basketball team was actually just ranked, I believe, in the top 25 recently, which caught a lot of people by surprise because the Georgia basketball team is actually terrible. They're like one of the worst teams like in the country so far. Like they just are not, quality enough to be in the top 25. And a lot of people were wondering like, what the hell happened? And they were saying, why does Georgia have so many first place votes in the AP poll when you have like a losing record and you've like basically, I think they're on like a 6-game losing streak. It's like, why were these teams receiving number 1 votes? And I guess and some people were speculating that maybe people thought they were accidentally voting in the football poll. And someone accidentally just hit the wrong thing and just completely altered the standings. But apparently what happened to one person is he saw the G for Georgia logo and he thought it was Gonzaga.
Oh man, that is tough to hear. I mean, I'll be honest though, it wouldn't too much surprise me because there's so many years where a football school, after winning a championship, their basketball program is weirdly ranked pretty high for a while. I mean, LSU, after the Joe Burrow year, I think they were ranked like 22 at one point, which they had a good team, but they made it about maybe 1 win into the bracket. And another classic example of this for probably anyone that resides in the state of Connecticut was, I think it was 2013. I might be wrong on that. The UConn Huskies, they went into the season unranked, and they went on to beat Kentucky in the championship as an 8 seed, and Kentucky was a 3 seed. So.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Yeah, they had a great run.
Well, I mean, yeah, they did have a great run, but man, I don't know. I'm like just sometimes seeing people kind of have human error and mess stuff up like that is a lot of fun. I mean, it obviously can have major ramifications, but it's still funny to see nonetheless. But boys, I mean, I hate to say it to you, but I think we are now officially down to the wire, which means that we're going to wrap up what we talked about in this episode and then get you guys out and onto the weekend. First things first, thank you so much to Tyler and Jake for coming back on the pod. Obviously, we're recording this at Loon Mountain Resort. It's actually being recorded at 9:30 at night right now, so I'm actually thankful you boys were willing to do this. But I mean, we ended up talking about our adventures skiing up here and all the shenanigans we got ourselves into. After that, we ended up talking about Colin Cowherd having a ridiculous take about Mac Jones, and then we also ended up talking about the Celtics and acquiring Bol Bol and PJ Dozier in a trade. And then we finished things off by talking about Florida State kind of making a fool of themselves with a new banner that they unfolded, and as well as some things going wrong in the AP poll around the country. Honestly, kind of a more chill episode. I'm glad that I was able to have these guys on. But listen, before we do end up going, if you're not following Down to the Wire at this point, what are you guys doing? We are available everywhere you guys can stream. So whether it be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, go find us there. We're available on YouTube, but the main hub you guys can reach us through is our Instagram. You can follow that at down.tothewire on Instagram. Again, at down.tothewire on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for listening. And from Down to the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
I'm Tyler Tucker.
I'm Jake Marchand.
Whatever, loser. I mean, you got to say it. You got to say it, Jake. And he's Jacob Marchand. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one. Take care and peace out.